pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our planning commissioners, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Want me to do?
She's walking here. Yes, can we have a roll call, please?
Vera,
Here.
Lombard,
Here.
Dodge.
Here.
Giacalone.
Here.
Kowinski, she's absent. Swears,
Here.
Lunga,
Here.
and Corey.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the March 13th, 2024 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 13, 2024 as presented.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I do not see any correspondence. We'll move on. Public comments. Anyone who would like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda? Okay. Late agenda items.
I have one.
Yes.
I have an opportunity to visit a commercial solar energy farm, the one in Lapeer. I talked to Kevin, the representative from DTE wants to hold it to about 2 guys, so I volunteered Kevin and he agreed.
All right.
And so what we're going to do is take a couple of weeks and put together our thoughts of what we want to cover with these guys. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty and try to understand what could be facing our community. So if anybody has any questions, input, or comments they'd like us to carry over there, you can email it to me or Kevin, either one of us. And then I think what we would do is bring back an after action report, see what we've learned over there about these things, and bring it back to both the Planning Commission and the Township Board so that we see what we're facing with that stuff. So that's it.
Sounds great. Thank you both. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to new business. Shango's Fireworks. Come on up. Hi.
My name is Sarah. Yes. Do you want my last name? You got it. It's Eyman, Eyman.
Okay.
We're just here as usual, many, many years now. Same thing, same situation.
Okay.
Fireworks as usual. Same spot, nothing different.
And then are you, I don't see the hours. What are your hours operation?
They usually open 9 or 10 a.m. till dusk, 9 p.m. Some days they close earlier than that because it's slow.
Mhm.
But always somebody there.
I have a couple questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
Typically, we get a letter from the owner.
Mhm.
Would be Habib,
I have the lease.
the lease.
Mhm.
Do we have a
I have it there. If you can make a copy. I have the original with me.
Do we have a copy?
I've never really provided the lease in the past.
We have the original copy. This is just a continual renewal.
Yeah.
Of what was approved.
Okay, but we have a copy. We haven't seen, planning commissioners haven't seen it. Hours of operation, we usually define dates, hours of I'm looking at what we did back for
Yeah.
the thumb gun guy. All that stuff was documented.
Yeah, she has all my paperwork.
Okay,
She's got my application with Habib's signature on it and phone number.
What are the dates?
I think it says June 6th, I believe it says. I don't have it in front of me. I switched cars. I just got all my information.
So the insurance lists American Eagle Superstore as the insured.
And if you look below, there's also your addresses on there.
So you're the
Van Dyke.
certificate holder. That's what's in the,
Yeah, that's how it's done every single year. I don't know.
okay.
I don't do that part. That would be Samir. I'm just his manager for these locations. I've never been asked that question. I honestly don't even have to go to any other meetings. This is the only spot I do this at.
I just want to make sure that we have the right,
Yeah. I mean, he's got, and this will be, I mean, this year, 8 locations,
oh, you
all
do?
the
You
exact
have
same
8
locations. Uh-huh.
What says the certificate holder at the bottom, Dennis?
Yeah, but it says insured, is it, that's what throws me off. A certificate and an insured being 2 different names, that's the only thing.
That should be mobile. Mobile's info up there.
Instead of American Eagle.
That's how all of them look. I have another copy of
This might be like a generic-
Davison's in my,
Say again,
This might be just like a generic coverage form,
it looks like it is.
but usually whoever, like location, I think should go in the insured, you know, if something happened there.
Oh, that's a good question, because that's not Habib.
Who is American Eagle Superstores, Inc.?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Like I said, I don't handle the insurance information. Never been asked that information before. We provide a copy to every city that we're in, that exact copy, but with their information at the bottom,
Yeah.
with the address that we're at the bottom. I do believe that's somebody with the fireworks, because their fireworks are insured as well. The location's insured, the fireworks are insured.
I don't have the other, does anyone have the other fireworks company, their insurance certificate?
Yeah, it was closed out.
Give me my phone, I'll.
So the other thing that's changed since the original submission is that now they have that food truck there that has.
They were there last year.
Okay. But since the original application, there's a food truck there that has open flame, those big propane tanks, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty close to this.
We've got time to fix some of this stuff. You're talking late June, July timeframe, right?
No, we start setting up in May.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because it takes a couple of weeks to fill that tent,
Yeah.
but we don't open until June 6th. But I mean, I don't know, that truck was there last year too.
Yeah, how's that gonna work if that
And
truck, if
we've
that
had this
propane
license for
blows
how
up?
long now? I mean, it's been here before I started.
Pardon me?
I said, how long have we been there? Like, we've been here longer
2001.
than I've been doing it.
You've been there since 2001.
That could possibly be a safety concern for people visiting the fireworks station with that huge propane tank right there. I think we definitely need to get an inspector out there to certify, to figure out what's going on with that tank.
I will have the OEO, who is also mechanical.
Perfect.
He will do that.
Typically, our motions identify the 4 standards for special land use, the dates of the operation, and the time that this operation is running. That's usually what our motions have been in the last, every year. You know, I don't have the documents in front of me to even make that motion. So,
I think the description of request is missing information. All it says is fireworks tent. It doesn't say the dates. It doesn't say the operating hours.
we usually have a letter from the owner dated for 2024.
That's new.
All last year's.
I did exactly the same stuff. As every year.
Well, I'm just
So
saying.
I'm just confused.
We held your competitor to those requirements when he was.
I understand that, but like I've been asking what I need coming into this. I mean, so I could have had that before coming tonight. Easily.
So who filled this out then,
I did.
Habib? Because it says, please indicate what your intentions are for the property and your time frame for establishing the
That's me.
use.
He signs as the owner of the property. I fill that application out. Sam signs it behind me because his writing isn't very nice, so I fill it out.
Yeah, it's just lacking information that we need.
It's the same info I've done. I mean, June 6th, whatever the license does. The license has the date on it. And the state requires the insurance to look like that. That's why it's showing like that. I'm asking the owner. He's giving me his answers.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, that's all required by the state fire marshal. I'm just confused why I wasn't told that I needed more. I've been in constant communication with Ida since February 2nd.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
In how many years? 23?
That's one.
So if we push this till next month, is there enough time to do setup?
No.
What was your question, Rick?
If we push this till next month, is there enough time to do setup?
Our meeting would be the 8th.
I don't know, because Black Cat drops the tents off. These are all owned by Black Cat. That's another reason why somebody else's name's on it.
Where is that tent being set up in comparison to that food truck?
We're in the same corner as we've been for
Oh,
22
here.
years. We can move to the other side of the lot.
I have the motion from 2020 that we approved, and it does call out the hours of operation, the dates,
Yeah, usually they just ask me and I just
and that
state what
there's
they
a,
are. That's what I do every year. That's
There's-
usually the only question I get. What are the hours? And I say the hours.
Okay, hold on 1 minute, please. Go ahead, Rick.
and an agreement to take a permit out for the temporary sign. Temporary sign, temporary tent, and for the electrical inspection for the courts. Copy of the license from the Michigan State, from the state of Michigan, is to be submitted to Almont Township prior to June 14, 2020.
Is anyone interested in making a motion? Whatever hours we put in the motion are their hours of operation.
Right.
Madam Chairman, the secretary is looking up the motion from last year.
Thank you.
2022, you want to look at that first? Where is it? April? It's on this one.
I think 2022 would be fine.
Is it on there?
I didn't see it in April.
There's no April.
It would be March, yeah.
Yeah, try March,
I had that.
Because usually they're in February and March. You don't put the agenda.
March, new business, March.
Says, moved by Dodge, supported by Swears to approve the annual renewal of case 18-01, special land use request from Shango Fireworks to have a temporary retail sales establishment located at 3983 Van Dyke Road because it meets standards A through D in section 5.3 with the following conditions: to be open June 14, 2023 through July 6, 2023, 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at 3983 Van Dyke. Shango's Firework is to apply for and secure a permit for the temporary sign, temporary tent, and for the electrical inspection.
Thank you. So you're saying June 6th to July 6th?
We're usually, yeah, you can do
Oh,
14th.
June
through-
14th,
That's fine.
10 a.m. to 9,
Yeah.
10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m.
Yes.
Somebody that's gonna make that motion.
I think Rick is.
I think we need to have Don look at that from a fire perspective.
Like,
As-
Ida's
as-
sending out inspectors, so.
Yeah, the building inspector goes out, the electrical inspector goes out, and, and Don goes out there also as the fire chief.
I was gonna say this, state marshal also inspected between the propane, the distancing.
All right, I'll kind of try to wing this then. I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the special land use application 1801 to allow Shango Fireworks to display and sell fireworks between 10 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. on the dates June 14th through July 6th, 2024 at 3983 Van Dyke. Mr. Shango is to apply and secure a permit for, are you doing temporary sign?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
for the sign, the temporary tent, and for the electrical inspection, and also an inspection by the fire department.
Yep.
A copy of the license from the state of Michigan is to be submitted to the Almont Township prior to the June 14th, 2024 date.
Support.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Start with Dodge. Start with Dodge.
Dodge,
Yes.
Swears.
Dennis,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Corey.
No,
Oh,
Corey
sorry.
doesn't.
Sorry.
Corey doesn't get to vote.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just email me that stuff. If there's a tiger.
Okay. We're on to special land use 2401 SMJ International with the communication tower on 3600 Glover Road. Is there anyone representing? Are you the tower?
Yes.
Come on up. And could you please state your name?
Aaron Edelman, Adelman, from SMJ International.
Who wants to start, Alex?
Sure.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, the Planning Commission received my second review letter. The most part, the Site plan stays relatively the same. There isn't really any changes noted. There is one item that was changed that was on sheet C2 in the legend that provides that the slope drainage is at 1.5% on the plan set. I'm going to defer to Corey on some of the technicalities of drainage, but ultimately some of the information requirements for planning and zoning purposes, the site acreage is not provided on the overall site on the plans. Questions about soil suitability, soil borings were not provided. I wasn't sure if the planning commission still wanted to do that. As I mentioned, the slope and drainage. Compliance items, there's proposed barbed wire. I'm not sure if the planning commission was going to waive that or not. Then in the parking requirements, there was a requirement for parking. If the planning commission was going to waive that or not. One important item here is landscaping. The applicant is citing screening on the site. That is not his, that is on the adjacent properties tree line. So the applicant isn't providing any screening. And then the last item is regarding co-location on towers. It says on there, from my understanding, the applicant could perhaps, share this with us, but there's essentially just Verizon only tower. My understanding, co-location is required on our ordinances and further. So this is a special land use. The applicant needs to meet the site plan requirements as well as the special land use standards that I provided you from the previous meeting of A, B, C, and D. So if there are any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Corey?
My second letter basically had 4 items from my previous review, so I related my response to that. Initially, we had a question about security lighting proposed as part of the project. Plans were revised to include motion sensor floodlights under the canopy in the area of the Verizon radio equipment. And I also had a comment about the site plan does not include the required parking areas. The plans have been revised to show one designated area, which is essentially the T or the turnaround area at the end of the drive. So landscape plan is not included. I did note on here that the plans been revised to include obscuring slats in the fence, but no additional landscape is proposed. And as Alex said, they are showing the existing vegetation, but as located on adjacent properties. To our knowledge, with the exception of a ways back to the west, towards the back past the drain. And then just one note, I don't believe it was on there, but something hard to tell. The surrounding zoning, this is a clerical note, surrounding zoning wasn't shown on there. Primarily what mine are, and that was what related to the zoning conditions, which is what you'd be considering tonight, but I did have some additional engineering comments. I noticed that the revised site plan did not include the full plan, which included engineering notes such as the cross-section material, driveway material, culvert information, which is, again, I'm separating it out to the form of engineering, and I'd have to go through that part to get any type of approval from this forward. The site plan is special land use, but as it relates to engineering, there are some remaining items. Zoning were just the 4 items I talked about.
Thank you.
So your general comments are the engineering comments related to this?
Yeah, I have engineering comments and general comments that are typically, the general comments are typically addressed during either construction or prior to construction. The engineering comments usually have a chance to address them, as long as they're not a major issue that would change the site plan, and these are not.
I thought we discussed at the last meeting that we wanted screening in landscape, not just the scrub on the sides. Wasn't that what the plan? Okay, so
Okay, should we just go down the list, or you want to start with the landscaping?
I mean, is there a reason you did not include that when you came
Um,
back to us after
I
we
took this back
requested
to
it?
them. It was my understanding that they were, they had the screened fencing around the compound. That they did not want to add additional landscaping if not necessary. If the board requires that, I'll take that back to them to add in additional landscaping.
I would vote yes myself personally for additional screening and landscaping. Okay, and then the overall acreage,
That is
What-
provide.
is it shown?
It is. It's on the cover on T1. There's a box that to the left that has project site, and it shows the total site project area and the acreage and square footage.
Okay, the soil borings,
The summary was included in the revised plans. That was on, my page number's cut off. It's C3-3.1 has the summary of the soil bearings, showing that it's suitable. We have the full report. I wasn't able to get a copy in time, but I can pass that. We can send that in as well.
now regarding the heights, what does our ordinance say for the height? We don't have one.
Meeting here, it mentions that the site will be congruent with the heights for that area, but zoned area, but I can't find it.
It's 265 feet. That's taller than, I think, the normal, isn't it?
Okay.
The normal tower height, isn't that
About
less?
265.
Is that the
255.
normal?
Something like that. I don't know if the Telecommunications Act covers that at the federal level. Are you talking if they need a waiver from the CBA?
Wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that remains open.
Okay, does anyone have questions for the applicants? All right, Dennis, let's start with you.
So this is a really confusing challenge here to me because we've got a letter here now from the Towers LLC. That's the first time I've seen their name. And then you got Vertical Bridge, SMJ, and Verizon. So I'm trying to figure out how all you guys are working together. Now the Towers letter, which I think Alex referred to as allowing for co-location. And
Yeah.
again, on the drawings, it says Verizon only.
On page C3 TE1 that shows future co-locators. I believe we covered this last time. On TE-1, it shows that 230 feet, there's the center line for a future antenna. And at 220 feet, there's another center line. So this can accommodate 2 future carriers.
Accommodate other carriers.
I'm adding
The
the,
future antenna spots.
that is what that means. That's for future co-locators.
T1 says Verizon only in 3 places. So
Where does this, I'm sorry, can you,
T1, right here.
Well, it's going to be Verizon. This is for Verizon. They will be the tenant on the tower. There are no other tenants currently planned to be on the tower.
Okay. So we've got the letter
Okay.
with the wrong address. And then, so you got the Towers LLC is saying Vertical Bridge will allow this.
I've never heard of Towers LLC. Vertical Bridge is the tower owner, and
Well, that's
Verizon is a
little confusing.
co-locator.
We've got a
I'm not-
letter that says that Alex brought out was needed.
Can I please see that letter?
Sure. See, this is a little confusing. You got 4 companies into this and you can't tell who's who. Vertical Bridge is named on the drawing as the owner of the tower.
Okay. Towers LLC and Vertical Bridge are the same company. They're doing business as Vertical Bridge.
Okay. They need to get the right address. That's a residential home.
Get a pen.
I guess we need to understand that too, that the Towers and LLC and Vertical Bridge are the same company, or one's representing another.
Just clarification, regards to the address, you talking about the Glover Road address?
Yeah.
That would still remain as the house. This is the leased area, so it's not gonna be given, unless they give it a different address for the.
6300 is the address for the tower. 3660.
36.
I'm sorry.
100, right?
3600 is the Glover address currently.
Correct.
If they pull a building permit, typically, if they require it for emergency services, they give the tower a new one. But the address currently is 3600 with the residence. This piece isn't
This
separated
is
out.
3664.
The
This
letter,
says-
the letter from Towers.
Yeah.
The new letter, I just want to first. So, Craig, if they,
The drawings show
right?
2 different addresses.
Absolutely, no, I've seen that. Absolutely.
I mean, you pull into this guy's driveway, he probably knows nothing about a tower going. Well, he should, though. He's a property owner. Right?
He was here at the last meeting. He's aware of the tower.
Owner lives on Kidder Road. Yeah. The tower has an address. I think it's 3600, right? Is that what you found?
That's what it says on the drawing.
Yeah.
3600.
So I just look at this 3, 4, 5 years in the future, and this letter is the wrong address.
And that
It's certainly confusing, and I will look into that.
does have the same tax ID number, but absolutely different, 3664 versus 3600. The tax ID number is shown as the same.
It's the same address?
Is the same tax ID number, but 2 different addresses.
Okay. This is the letter we'll look at 5 years from now, or 6 years from now, or whatever. The tower won't be, it's 3664.
Monroe also has that 3664 address. So the drawing says 3600, Rose review says 3664, and the letter from, who I guess is the applicant, Towers, is 3664. So there is some consistency in their inconsistency.
All right, moving along here. Oh, yeah.
There is some confusion, because looking through the emails, there are some call for 3664 on email communication from the township and from the applicant, but everything on the application is 3600.
I think it was, as Ida pointed out, before they got an address for the actual tower, they used 3664. I think that's what they were using.
It does say Mr. Baronick is the owner of 3664 Glover Road.
Oh, okay.
So,
Pronounced Baranic.
Baronick.
DTE requires an address. So what they had asked for was an address for their equipment so that they would be serviced.
Tower location, the road to the tower is probably going to be 6300.
3,600 is the leased area.
Now, I'm a little bit confused on your S2 drawing
Mhm.
and your S1 drawing. So the S1 drawing shows the property owners to the north as Red Family LLC and Frank Benanic, how do you pronounce it? Brannick. And then on S2, you've got Red Family LLC and then Stephanie Schneider. And then, so I don't know where Frank's property went. And my point is that, well, first of all, the tower is too close to the property line. But S2 or S1 shows the tower adjacent to the Red Family LLC. And S2, if I'm reading it right, I don't know what that PK is, but I think Frank's property must be in the middle of that. I'm not sure what that PK stands for, but Frank's property on S2 disappeared. See, what I'm getting at is, and I don't know, when these towers fall, if they ever fall,
Mhm.
the likelihood that it's going to remain on the parcel that it's on is probably pretty nil. So you're falling on somebody else's property. And that's the complaint we received from one of the property owners. It's too close to the property line.
Trying to find the distance
Oh, yeah, I can show
to
you.
the property line. I know that was called out.
Well, it's not 265 feet.
No, I know, but we can provide a fall zone letter from a certified engineer that these towers are designed to fall in on themselves. So they would provide a letter saying that would fall within a certain radius of that center point. So I was just trying to find what that distance was, and I know they can provide them at least up to 50% of that distance, if not more.
We need that letter, because
Okay.
right now you're too close to the property line to
Okay.
protect them. And as long as we're talking about that, when we do a special land use approval, we have the 4 requirements that we have to find affirmative to, A, B, C, and D. And I can only find affirmative on 2 of those 4. Okay, A and B I can't. You got to protect the surrounding neighborhood for the use of their property, whatever they want to do with it. And that tower that close to the property line, it's not going to cut it.
With all due respect, did this come up at the last meeting? Just curious if it did, because I don't believe it did, and I feel like this is a new note. Okay.
And to address that concern, the last meeting, the items discussed for landscaping and the location was discussed, not entirely proximity, but was explained that the landowner wanted it tucked away kind of into the corner because it's
Sure.
so far in that field.
Sure.
So it wasn't an in-depth discussion, but it was, for my notes, a discussion point.
Okay.
Do you guys receive our ordinance requirements then when you apply here?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't personally work the application on this site. I'm filling in for somebody, but yes, we do have a copy of your ordinance.
It's the sacrificial lamb here, right?
Yeah. Apologies for my frustrations.
So let me go to section 2.22E. So this is what it says in the ordinance. Towers may be located in the districts identified in section 8.6, table of uses, provided the location of such facilities do not represent a hazard to the use and or development of other permitted uses on the site or in the area. And that's what I think the comment about too close to the property line. I mean, if that property were to be developed for residential uses, the owner would have a hard time building a house back there next to a tower. That's my point.
Understood. So with the fall zone letter, the board,
Fall zone
Would at least-
that's, yeah, you should have a zone like that anyway. But a residential house 50, 60 feet from a 265-foot tower, I doubt that the people would be able to do that, sell that property.
sure. I guess my question is if we're able to provide a fall zone letter, are you saying you're not going to move forward with this position at all? Or if we provide a fall zone letter that says it can still fall within that property at their current location?
Regardless of where you put the tower, the fall zone is required. I think we should have that.
Sure.
But I'm looking at also the standards for special land use. And the review standards, there's 4 of them we have to find affirmative to. Do you guys have that copy of that? Okay. A says the characteristics of the proposed special land use such as location, size, layout, periods of operation, and character will not unreasonably be detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood or create an unacceptable off-site impacts to the traffic, dust, road, and all that kind of stuff. And then B says the characteristics of the proposed special land use such as location, size, layout, periods of operation, and character will not be unreasonably interfere with or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or unreasonably affect their value. Now, those are the 2 things I would have a hard time finding an affirmative to because of the being located so close to the property line. Okay?
Madam Chair, I just want to add
Yes.
to the discussion, item C, to Dennis's comments of located. I think that's an important point of item C. The proposed use is so designed, located, planned, and to be operated that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected.
Okay, and I got one more item. Sorry about that. Section 222, communication towers. A, it reads, in order to maximize the efficiency in providing such services while minimizing the impact on such facilities on a township, co-location of such facilities on a tower are required. There is a tower, and I think Verizon knows about it, about 3/4 of a mile south of the proposed site here. So our job, I think, as the planning commission, is we have to have something from whomever saying why they can't co-locate on that tower.
Sure. We submitted some propagation maps with our resubmission. Can I show you these? Can I bring these to you? Unfortunately, I won't have it with me. I'll show you. These are the before and after,
Right.
and the maps of the tower. So this would be the new proposed tower. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it doesn't, see what I'm getting at, it doesn't show the impact of 3/4 to a mile to the south. What would you lose up here is what we would have to have. We have to be able to say why you can't locate on that tower. This is telling me the impact between not having a tower and having a tower.
Okay. So you'd like to see maps if they could locate on either of these towers, what this
The
center would
other,
look like?
the other tower is only 3/4 of a mile south
You're
of
saying
that,
there's another tower right next to the.
right here.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna take, I'll take that back to them. This is the maps they provided to me.
understand, and we asked for that, I got you. I'm sorry about this, but
No.
but we,
You guys gotta
our
do what you gotta
interest
do.
is, you know, the big 3 things I see that really upsets the community. Wind energy, wind turbines,
Sure.
solar panel, commercial solar energy, and cell towers. So we're gonna catch heat, one way or the other, so somebody.
But in the same sense, though, they complain everywhere the phone doesn't work.
Right. Other phones aren't working right now, Nick, I can tell you that.
No, they're not.
Anyone else? Questions for the applicants?
I agree with what Dennis said. I think we should exhaust the other tower that's only 3/4 of a mile away to see if there's available spot on that tower for them to use. That would be first and foremost.
Yeah, I talked to the owner of that property Monday. It was inactive, Ida, for a while, and then now they're upgrading the tower now in the process. I think it's Mercury Broadband is putting something up there. That may mean something to you guys. It doesn't mean much to me.
I'm not sure what's on that tower. You said that that existing tower is 3/4 of a mile south of.
It's the other side of Dryden Road, right?
It's on Dryden. Yeah, it's
Yeah, the driveway is off Dryden Road, and then
So it's just
It's about a mile.
west of Glover,
It's about a mile.
west of Glover.
west of Glover, south side
South
of Dryden Road.
Yeah, it might be a mile. Is
It's,
that
I
what you
just
see,
looked
Kevin?
it up. It's about a mile.
About a mile. But we'd like you to explore that. And honestly, I don't know what you're gonna do with that location. That is a challenge. I don't know how big that field is, if you could move it the
See
other
if the
way.
property owner was here.
It's not, I like the idea that it collapses on itself. Gotta understand that. I don't know how it does it, but that's great.
Sure, and we'll provide that regardless of the location.
But the impact on the property to the north, even if it collapses on itself,
Oh.
the impact of those property owners to do what they want to with their property would be a challenge with a 265-foot tower, what's 50 foot from the property line, whatever it is.
What kind of tower is this? Is this a monopole or
Self-support.
self-support? Those are known for collapsing on their own, or?
I'm told that they are able to provide a letter that it can collapse within its a certain radius.
Monopoles and the lattice type structures do have collapse zones. It used to be when they had the tied on the wires, that's what
Yeah.
controlled it. When they don't, whether it's a monopole specific, at certain heights where they collapse on themselves, they basically fold down on themselves. The lattice ones, I'm not as familiar with it, but they do have shear areas that if it gets to a certain point, that's where it fails. So the whole thing can come over one way or the other.
That's good news.
And then that's why, because when they first, my experience, when they first started coming out, whatever the height was your setback.
Right.
And that pretty much went away because they all went to collapse zones. Now, the setbacks varied after that. But it used to be if you're 200 feet high, you're 200 feet away from a building, from a property line. But that standard, at least in my dealings, has kind of gone away because of the collapse zones. And I have no idea what this one is, but they're engineered to do that.
Just want to make sure. We need those documents, I guess, so.
100%.
The other thing I'm not clear on is you did the soil borings. You have a foundation drawing, and I think, Brian, you brought this up at the last meeting. I can't figure out how deep the foundations are from your drawing. It's S3. And the only foundations I see are the generator anchor. So how does it, I mean, you are in a wetland. And I tried to learn as much as I could from the soil borings. You had water at 5 feet, you had water at the surface, you had a collapsed soil bore hole at 16 feet. I hope you're convinced that this could support the tower, because I don't see,
Sure.
I don't
I'll
understand the foundation requirements, because the only thing I see on that sheet are for the generator.
Understood. I will forward the full report. I can't speak to its contents, but there is a full report that I can pass on that should have more information. Absolutely.
Okay, Corey. Doesn't matter. Okay.
Anyone else? Questions?
I think we need to have another punch list One would be exhaust the efforts to get onto the other tower. That would be first and foremost. Two would be, it looks like the acreage information is on the drawing. So that one appears to be taken care of. The soil borings are on the drawing, whether they're acceptable or not, they are on the drawing. The third one is that the calculations for the drainage, that needs to be addressed. And then when we get into zoning compliance, talks about the barbed wire fence. I'm okay with them removing the barbed wire as far as if we want to do like a straw poll or something on that.
I'm in favor of the barbed wire because somebody's
Yeah, I
gonna
don't-
try to get into
That's a
that.
security wire,
Yeah.
not an actual barbed wire fence. It's
Always gonna try to breach a fence.
And then the landscaping.
Barbed wire is prohibited for our ordinance.
We can waive it.
Right. Okay. So then we give them direction to waive that. The next one is the parking space that appears to be taken care of.
It's noted.
Yep. Screening requirements as far as the landscaping. We need to provide them direction on what we want so that they can provide it on the drawing.
Go back, what was the comment about parking?
They didn't have it noted, but they did note it on the plan.
You just said on there?
It's on,
Oh, wow.
find it,
Alex, I see it.
That's C3.
yeah.
So the screening requirement, as far as the green belt or landscape, we need to provide them some guidance on that so you can put it on the drawing. If we're gonna require it, we're not gonna waive it. Or we just instruct that it needs to follow the ordinance. But
Well, with landscaping, there isn't a specific requirement that plant this for this, for this. In this case, it would be a matter of what the planning commission wants for adequate screening, or you can put the onus on the applicant to provide adequate screening. I think either way is fine. I know in other instances in the township, with cell towers or communication towers, they just provide an arborvitae, a column arborvitae, so they grow, and there are some in the township that have been in place quite some time, and they are growing. That's typically, at least there's two I can think of, it's really only two I can think of, the township where they did, I think they started at 6-foot arborvitae as a screen. You would consider, if that is the route, they consider doing it on every side or just the visual, sides that are visual from Glover or the entire perimeter, because that, whatever, that's the latitude you'd have for the screening. You require on everything, or side here, side there, or different plantings, or just let them determine what it is and come back with it.
to Dennis's point of protecting the neighboring properties, I think we should probably just have them do it all the way around.
I agree with that.
But I'm okay with
The
like a
challenge
6-foot
is
arbor.
approving the special land use in my mind. I can't find affirmative on 2 of the 4 items, maybe 3, that Alex pointed out. So I don't even know if where we're at here. Because if you have to approve the special land use, you gotta find affirmative to the 4, the criteria, and I can't do it on A and B, for sure.
I'd also like to add with the under 5.3.8 noise considerations is something I brought up last month. I don't know if we ever heard back on.
It's in here.
It shows you the generator.
It's, there's a layout with the sound, post sound map.
Reference one.
Yeah, rough one, so second to last page.
It looked pretty good, Brian, to me. Yeah. So they give you a decibel. equivalent.
I have a printout from the Generac. Would you like to see this?
Sure. Thank you. I think this is yours too. Thank you.
Struggling with?
On the special land use,
Yeah.
A and B. And maybe C.
So C would be handled with moving it further away from the property line? Is it the welfare part that you have
Right, I
that's hanging
mean,
up on that?
I don't know who's gonna, if that's residential property to the north. It looks like there's 3 property owners that could change hands tomorrow. One of them is the owner of the property the tower's going on. But who's gonna build a residential home or anything next to 50 feet from a 365 or 265 foot tower? It's just not gonna happen. And I think that covers A and B, and then C is health, safety, and welfare.
I don't know if there's any road frontage there, though.
Pardon?
I don't know if there's any road frontage there to build on those further 2 back, because where Snyder is, that house goes out to the road. And it looks like those other 2 are behind that.
The property has road frontage, so that would be the, I mean, he could put a drive from the road to his house, but if the neighbor, whoever wants to put a house on the property, as long as they're meeting the setback requirements, they're pretty good. So it's a matter of the front road frontage for a parcel, so they have road frontage.
So you're saying, Nick, they're landlocked? One of them isn't.
No, yeah, they would just have to go down and come back around.
Oh, right, and like I said, they could change ownerships
Yeah.
tomorrow. It could be one owner for all 3 of them.
Right.
And I think Mr. Red asked that question, why does it have to be so close to the property during a public hearing? So if your guys would take a look at those 4 criteria, I think that's a good starting point, because that's a challenge for me to do that. And that goes with the special land use approval.
So they're going to look at the criteria.
Can you give him some specifics?
He's going to investigate the other tower placement, drainage calculations. Sounds like everyone is fine with the barbed wire fence, and then screening.
With regards to the screening, we talking about around the compound only or along the access drive?
This drive is the drive. I mean, it's no different than any other drive in any other facility.
That would be consistent with what towns have done in the past as far as the facility and not necessarily the drive. Unless there's something intrusive about the drive that you determine, but just historically, that's what it's been, more the facility area.
Other questions for the applicant?
To clarify on the drainage calculations, what my concern is that it's adjacent to a county drain. So either, and this would be resolved in engineering definite, but if it's not, it'd be better to resolve it now because it comes up later, then it kind of throws a wrench in everything. But because it drains to the county drain, either an approval or a letter from the county drain saying that everything there is okay, or an approval to the county drain to drain to it. So those would be the 2 items. They have their own standards as far as stormwater detention. If it doesn't meet that threshold, then they can work with you, but that would be a drain commission answer. If it wasn't going to a county drain, we would require some kind of stormwater detention.
far are you back from the drain? Because generally it can be from 66 feet to 100 feet back, right away from any drain, so.
Based on location of the drain, I believe they're out of the drain, but it's not showing, it's a 100-foot drain.
Right away from the drain?
There's a on here.
This says 100-foot drain easement.
Yeah.
I believe it's a 100-foot drain easement, it's just not.
That's what C1 says.
And I think that they're out of that area, but that would be part of the drain commission purview for that.
Yeah, it shows a dimension of 119 feet.
That necessarily isn't my concern, the concern is that it's draining to it. And ultimately, you would have to get some kind of approval, either acknowledgement that nothing's needed, or that whatever is
Do it.
needed.
Any further questions for the applicants? Okay, you can have a seat right now. Sir, were you here to speak about this item? Were you here to speak about this item? Yes. Please come up.
Howard Red, I own the property to the north, and I just cannot see why this should be rezoned or approved for special land use in an agricultural area and residential. And they want to move it right next to my property, which I really don't like. Thank you for bringing that across, Dennis. And the owner that's putting this up, the property owner, he's got another quarter-mile frontage on Glover Road. He can bring it in anywhere he wants. He's got woods in back. They can move it way back. If you guys approve it, I mean, it really doesn't make sense when there's so many towers next, close. And there's other land right there on Van Dyke also. I own property Red Electric also on Van Dyke. There's a tower right there adjacent to me behind, well, it's the old Almont Welding building, Nova Fab. And all that property along Van Dyke is zoned for that. And it just doesn't make sense to take the residential area and put that up. And it seems like what the owner here is proposing is really incomplete. His prints seem like a bunch of prints put together that they don't even have the right owner or land or addresses. If I went to get an electrical permit from IDA before, I would need details. And to me, there's not enough information. Just the soil borings alone, I don't know how you could approve anything back there. It's wetlands. Of course, that's up to the County Drain Commission because they designate wetlands, and I don't even know if you could build in there. So I strongly disagree with approving this whole project anywhere in the agricultural residential area when there's other ways out. Also, I'm told there's high-speed internet coming along. I don't know if that takes the place of these towers or it's needed or what, but we've been told that for a long time too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any board discussion? Dennis?
I can take a shot at a motion unless you got something written up, Rick. I don't know here. Like you said, I'll move to table. Move to table SMJ International Communications Tower request for special land use 2401 and the site plan to allow the applicant time to address the issues discussed, to include the The location of the towers too close to the property line per Article 2, Section 2.22E. The feasibility of Verizon Wireless to co-locate on an existing tower. I think it's known as the Stein Tower, about a mile south. Correct the shared, the Towers LLC letter for shared co-location for the right address. Resubmit the sheets per Corey's analysis or letter C 2.1, C4, C5, C6, C7, D1, D2, D3, D4, and D5, which were not included in the last revision of 3/25/24. Provide the letter of the collapse data on the tower itself, that it collapses on top of each other.
Letter from County Drain Commission.
Address the issues relative to the county drain requirements.
Screening requirements.
Address the additional landscaping requirements. Strongly urge you to look at Section 5, Article 5, for our special land use acknowledgements and requirements that we would have to agree to.
Second. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Did I catch it all?
Yes, she did. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Let's move on to our review and update of our master plan.
Sorry, guys, nothing new to report, still being worked on to present you guys the draft one of the whole plan, so I'm hoping to have it for next month's meeting.
All right.
So we're, Alex, on this sheet,
Oh, the approval process?
yeah, so whereabouts,
You're in,
2, right?
yeah,
Okay. Are we up against a deadline here that's getting too close to us right now?
there's no deadline. I mean,
No deadline?
There's, trying to get it done within the year, but we're getting there. The issue with the mapping was kind of threw us off a little bit, but after that, once you review it and you recommend it, it goes up to the council. They can assume it, or they can kick it back down to you guys for approval. And then you hold a public hearing for that, and then afterwards, you send it out to the other jurisdictions and authorities for their input, and then you have a final meeting.
Would it be beneficial to have a special planning commission meeting yet this month? If you could get us the draft, or
Yeah, you have to.
I'm
put
trying to get
notice-
this thing moving along.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I can't wait to get it off my plate, because I have
Gotcha.
a million other projects, so.
Right,
Believe me, yeah, it's getting worked on right now.
okay.
We're short of marketing and everything else we're doing, so. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Any other reports, Alex?
I don't.
Okay.
Obviously, there's tons of training out there that's available through Michigan State Extension, Michigan Planning Association. So if there's something you guys have questions about, please let me know. I can point you in the direction. I know we have varying experience of planning commission members or things you want to work on. I know everyone's talking about solar and wind still, so.
Sounds good. Corey?
You have, it's kind of a summary. And again, there's not a lot of change since December, but it does kind of show you where things are at. And I'll touch on the ones that kind of will be starting up here or have gone a little bit forward anyway. So, just to go down the list a little bit, the smokehouse, really, I think the only thing that's left on that, it's more housekeeping, except we're still working with we have not any progression on the stormwater detention, whether modifying that to include a large area that's there or not, so that's really the only thing that's outstanding on that. DTE.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Corey, I think you pressed for an easement because there's two properties there.
Right.
And that's.
And well, it hasn't gone away, we just haven't received it. We've been pressing for an easement in case, because it's a unique property where it's residential and commercial. And odds are, if it ever sells, changes hands, it's gonna change hands partial, either the house or the front, which is fine. But when there's a stormwater detention that's not entirely, without it being split or locating where it's at, typically require an easement.
It's on both properties?
It's in the center of the property, yeah.
Okay.
At least that's how it's proposed, we haven't got that resolved yet.
So is that CCA that's driving that, or, because I know they're not, our building department's not in charge of that site plan, CCA is?
I think the state is, that is the CCA now.
Has there been any movement on the?
Not as far as
Detention
following
pump.
that component of it, not for some time. As far as the site plan of it. So, because there is on the approved plan, there is a detention pond there, permanent, but it's quite impressive. They want to go away from that to make it more, not as intrusive, which is fine, again, we can do that. We just would need to have that part of it determined.
So does that come back to us for approval on that variance, or does that go to CCA?
Well, it wouldn't be a variance, it would come back to you once we see what it is, it'll come back to the planning commission, this is their proposal, because that's a site plan issue, it's not a building code, so it's really something that if CCA, I'm not, if the CCA is doing inspection, then probably should do some coordination with them that, this is needed.
Because there hasn't been any movement in any recent time there.
No, there's not.
We need to help move that along.
I would agree. DTE, we tried to get in, they wanted to inspect, well, they didn't formally ask for a final inspection I'm aware of, but we knew they were close, we went out in December, and you couldn't really do an inspection December, so we're just kind of waiting for some growth and some things. Though I think they're very close to being completed and everything, I don't know where permitting, where they stand, as far as soil erosion. I think the county okayed their driveway approach. As far as other permits, but site-wise, they're pretty close ahead. They've struggled with their trees. They had trees in, took them out, too small, brought some back, but I think they resolved that as far as what they had put in there. So they're close. I anticipate that one probably getting done once they request is finished up here in the next month. Pinecrest is due to start up. They said they think it totals unofficially end of April, early May. And that really just barely got started last fall. As far as the road construction, they were really just doing ditching, put a couple culverts across the road. They haven't done any road construction yet. And they are in coordination with the county on that also. And if you don't remember, we're doing the inspection for the township, but then the county road commission also hired us to do the road inspection for the county. So it's all in one house, just a little easier that way. Superior Contracting, I think you were copied on their as-built. I tried to summarize the differences between the approved plan and the as-built. They do have some minor items that go by there, see their berm still hasn't grown, they have to establish vegetation, but as far as the as-built, we did not see an issue. The as-built, for the most part, all the changes they made were enhancements to screening, trees, landscaping. Now, again, the 18-inch trees, don't mean any spec we have, but they're above and beyond what was originally required, so I didn't even think that was a major issue. Unless you have any specific questions with that. And
But your comment is recommend final approval from whom?
for the as-built. And then
Planning Commission.
we're recommending final approval, I want the planning commission to understand that, because the as-built, when they do change, and they go through that thing, we bring it back to the planning commission to look at it. So we have no issue with it, it doesn't necessarily have to be formal and pass, it wasn't a formal approval. We'll just acknowledge that the as-built is part of the process, and we're good. If they came in to formally submit, like they did do a couple times, change a thing here, change something here on their actual plan, that was approved, but that's why I bring the as-built to you. If the as-built, in your opinion, is significantly changed where you want to formally approve, there's no issue with that. But just in the past, we haven't done it, as long as there's basically consensus that we're okay with where it's at. VP Capital, I don't, to my knowledge, they haven't started anything up this year. Material still has not been moved out of sight. We're balancing, getting material away from the berms. Daisy Lane is trying to cross T's and dot I's in the county, but I think they're looking at different T's and different I's. We're trying to get that back together. Hopefully, that would be something I can see probably again through their final approvals in May as a public road. They're working on monopoly and different things, because Detroit Edison just went through there and kind of did what they do, so they're cleaning that up to get it presentable to the road commission. I'm not sure if we're still keeping this Yakabelli site plan on here. I've seen no change almost till June, so that would be something to think of when we get back to a review in June of the site plan. I mean, there's been zero. And I know they ran into stormwater detention issues, but I saw that on there. Legacy Metals, again, we're not really involved with the building. It was minor building, but typically with pre-construction meetings, so I don't know where that stands either. And then the storage site plan, I believe that you'll have that on your agenda for next month. They just submitted here about a week ago, I think. Their revised site plan. And then obviously we talked about SMJ International.
So you both have Jimmy's latest site plan drawings? Alex?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at my emails and see if that's
Okay.
good to go or not.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't looked at it either. I think they were just submitted last week. Is when they were sent. So I have no idea if they're good or not, but. And that is it, unless you have any specific questions or comments, or if I missed something.
Anyone have questions for Corey?
So on Superior, does George ask to be put on the agenda for our final approval, or?
Typically, they do not. Once they go with site plan, we would recommend approval to the township if they have the building permits, and everything goes on. All the permits are done and approved, and he's just done.
And then the set of drawings that lives at the township, that'll have the markups of.
I would have that as-built plan, and if that, as long as it stays that way, that is the final as-built as it stands, minus my, I don't think I put the notation, I did include one notation. There is a clean version at the township without my markups on it. I just did that to kind of show you the different areas.
I'm going to skip over ZBA and move on to zoning and building report.
Okay, I've been in a conversation with a contractor who, I don't know how many of you are familiar with reliable compactors. Okay, the storm that went through, I don't know, must be close to 10 years now.
I looked it up, it was between two, because I looked at the area
Yeah.
between 2007 and 2010.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
2008, I think.
Yeah, he came in and he was going to reconstruct the building that blew down in that storm. And I said, you're going to have to go through the planning commission. And that's when the disagreement began. And I referred him to Article 4 section 4.2, where it said if a building permit is required, then it needs to come before the planning commission. Since then, I've learned that there's a little bit more than just a couple walls going up. So I'm going to consider and stand firm that he needs to come before the planning commission, because the last plan that we have for that site was 1999, and it was prepared by Rowe. And if there's going to be more changes to that site, especially that building, he's talking about a truck well and some other things. So until I get the full picture, the building department's just sitting on it, because we can't go forward until he has met all the requirements. So that was the only thing. I do have an update on Legacy. They have been in conversation with the village about annexing their piece of property into the village, because they want to purchase property behind them off of Research Drive there. And I don't know where that stands. I haven't heard anything. They haven't come to me personally. It was just something someone said to me, because I guess he's been in some conversations with the village about that. So until something happens, because they really do need more room than what they have there. And let me see, what else have I got? Oh, on Daisy Lane, I got an email from Bethany of the Lapeer County Road Commission where they have extended the permit. And they are, as Corey mentioned, they are going to meet out there and go over it. So they can hopefully get that road started. It's either get it approved by the county as a public road, or he needs to come back and get it approved by the planning commission for a private road. So ball's in the developer's court, so he has to make a decision as to what he wants. Oh, and from what I understand, the county may not be accepting any new public roads in the county. So we may not have to go through that again.
So we'll move on to Planning Commission general comments. Dennis, would you like to start with the?
Yeah, I guess the only thing there I was looking for from input from the planners to take a look at our ordinance. And I know that Alex has talked about this new law that's 10 megawatts higher. The state will take over that. I think, and maybe Kevin and I will learn a little bit more when we go over to the DTE site, but this was brought up about 2 years ago that our ordinance for commercial solar energy farms is a little bit weak. And I'm not sure. The only thing Alex and I talked about was that they call it a 60-foot buffer. I think we usually call those setbacks or something, but I don't know if that's adequate. I don't know what the rest of the planners think. Have you looked at the commercial solar energy ordinance? And if it's good with everybody, I'm okay with it. But I just think it might need some touching up. Anything under 10 megawatt power is going to fall back on the local community, if I understand the law right, and that's up in the arms a little bit.
Yes and no. So the megawatt would kind of equate to acreage. And, talking with Bob Seaver, your township attorney, who's also a township attorney with the community I met with last week, along with him, regarding the state law. So, everything that's in the state law is what's kind of required. In addition to that, what's not required is open for the planning commission to perhaps, put things in for mitigating against, the visual of the site, including screening. The buffer is the buffer. So there's room. I mean, in this case, you would, if there's an applicant, you'd point them to the state law that's just passed, that's going to take an effect here in November or December. You do have landscaping requirements that you do have in your zoning ordinance. You could refer them back to that. You could draft up new ordinances regarding landscaping, buffering, screening from the site going forward. Obviously, if you were to require like a 60-foot, berm or something like that, that'd be pretty much unreasonable, and they might fight that. But DT and other folks, DT specifically has noted that they're going to try to be a good neighbor and do things appropriately. Obviously, there is nothing mentioned in the state law about wetlands and stuff like that. So essentially, what you have on the books would be in effect there, or what's required. So love or hate it is what it is. And so there's room, but you do have ways of addressing it. I think the most important thing to note is you do have a process to intake an application. If one were to come to the township, you would have a way to provide them equal right for application as well as equal protection from the community. That's pretty much all I can really say at this moment.
Yeah, I guess what I'm looking at is, in the back of my mind, I don't think it's too likely that we're going to see a big solar, commercial solar, but I'd sure like to know for sure. So, okay.
What are other communities doing with their screening? What are they requiring?
Well, a lot of communities don't have ordinances around solar. Except, there's a few that I've worked with in the past year or two that I've developed those for. Obviously, those don't mean anything now. You have to follow state law. There's screening height at time of planting, whether it's fencing, staggered double rows of trees, species of trees, those type of items that kind of help mitigate the height of towers and the view from the street or other properties. That's pretty much it. But ultimately, if it's above a certain wattage, they can go to the state and get their permits. Even if they're below that, they have the ability to go to the local level and get approval. But they also can go to the state if they've exhausted that option. So,
Any other planner comments?
Yeah, I think we need to clean up our temporary use specifically to these fireworks. I think we know what we want, but it's not documented anywhere to say an applicant comes in here and what do we want? We get the insurance, we get the letter from the property owner. We get all that stuff, but like she was confused as to, and I'm still not clear about who's covering on the insurance. It just seems like we need to document that somehow, somewhere, to say, if you're going to do this temporary building and temporary sales, here's what the planning commission or the township requires for you to submit to get approval. Because I don't find anywhere we can hold their feet to the fire in the ordinance. There isn't anything in there that says for a temporary, unless you can address it, item.
Well, no, I just have a question for Alex, if I may, Madam. Okay. Is there a way of, this whole thing is driven by the original motions. They have to come back on an annual basis. Is there a way for this planning commission to make another motion that overrides that, and then they don't have to come back every year? I mean, it is a special land use. It goes with the property. They have their standards. Or is it something that the planning commission doesn't mind having them do on an annual basis? Because we're the only community who does this.
I don't have a problem with coming back every year, but I think that says so they're not wasting their time. I think the biggest concern is the special land use goes with the property. So tomorrow, another company could come in and say, or in the case of the mobile station or the gun store, we're going to go with somebody else. They may not bring in all that stuff. They may not have all those.
Well, I think if it were a new application, I'd have them apply. But the use was approved for them. And as Sarah indicated, it's just repetitive. Every year they come back with the same thing. It's just, and as she even mentioned, this is the only community who makes them come back on an annual basis. I'm just putting it out there because I don't know what to do with this either, other than follow the original motion.
Well, it's a matter of temporary sales, they want us to, and what uses fall under that. So fireworks, I mean, much of that's under state law, right? So you have to cite that, they have to follow those procedures and provide that to you, that they've met those standards. That is kind of a requirement. The way they're going to set up, their sales and where they're going to be locating and showing, demonstrating that. It's the applicant needs to provide that. So, perhaps other places don't address that, but a lot of communities don't have proper zoning ordinances too. I mean, if you listen to communities that are rewriting them, and they're about 25 pages thick to address all the things that you guys have. And I know you guys could probably add more. So, it's your community. You have a right to regulate uses and have a process.
So we could duplicate what the state requires, Alex?
No, you can't duplicate. You
I mean, we can
defer to the
ask-
state on that.
Right.
So they have to demonstrate that they've met those standards. And that, if it's a temporary outdoor sale, so they would follow outdoor sales or temporary use, whichever one you guys feel is more appropriate. So it's really a temporary use. They're there for a few months and they're gone. And they may not come back. And in the event that, these are something that can change. I mean, they have it, but they can. And so, when someone comes back again, you may change some sort of requirements on those things because, after all, it's not, not selling lollipops, they're selling fireworks that are, to some degree, explosives.
Dennis, if you want to get with me, we can come up with something that I can hand out to them every year when they come in.
Yeah, and it's got to be, I think, generic enough
Mhm.
for anything would fit that,
Mhm.
those requirements. And it's just a checking of the box and
Yep.
because I'm confused. I try to find out what are we going to ask them to give us, and we don't have any leverage other than they go by state law. And it's okay.
Well, it's all in the file.
The key is to protect the interests of the community,
Mhm.
and insurance is doing that for
Mhm.
us. But it's still good to have your records show that the property owner has signed a document that he's in agreement with that temporary use.
And then also state the hours and the dates right on the application.
Is that somewhat controlled by the state as well, I think? Maybe not.
So you would like a letter of intent stating who they are, where they're going to hold their temporary sales, hours of operations, et cetera, et cetera. So
Meaning state laws, insurances, such and such.
Yep. Maybe we can put something together.
Yeah,
I
okay.
can work on that
Thank you.
in my spare time. Yeah.
The application's new every year though, right? Like
I
this,
don't even see an application, Nick.
There
I see a
is-
sheet of
It's
an
a
insurance.
reaffirming of the approval.
well, yeah, but that's from this year and the property owner signs that.
Yeah.
So it
Mhm.
could just be right on there.
So I think that part, I mean, if he's signing, I think the letter to me is almost just one more unnecessary. If he's signing that, he knows they're gonna do it.
Right. But it would be nice to require dates.
No, yeah, I agree with all that, just as far as like that letter, because this isn't the same one. This is dated this year and it requires the legal property owner and then the person doing temporary sales. So I think that kind of negates the need for another letter of Habib saying, I'm gonna let them sell fireworks. Well,
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you, yeah.
because you said a letter of, from the property owner saying that he knows what's going on. Well, he knows what's
Yeah, and
going
I
on
think-
because he just signed this.
I think we got a separate letter from Mike up there.
I think so too, but I think that was maybe above
That's-
and beyond.
That's what I was thinking. We should have had that. I didn't realize that Habib had signed this thing.
Oh, yeah, they have to sign the application, but they should, when they make a submission, make sure that they have the information that you're requesting.
Anything else? Any other comments from planning commissioners? All right,
Move to adjourn.
okay. 8:35, meeting adjourned.